Hi everyone, this is another edition of Jai with Shaz. It's a special one because it's middle of the week and I typically don't do anything in the middle of the week other than work. Just a quick reminder, on Sunday we've got a fantastic guest coming on, which is a stand-up comedian. She'll be dialing in from Canada. So 6 p.m. Sunday, be here and come onto my page. Please share, like, follow me on my page. This page is purely to give people a platform to talk to other people and inspire other people. And we've got a fantastic guest on today from Derby. He's a local community worker, and we're going to get to know him a little bit. There's some election stuff going on. I know all that, but we're going to try and avoid the election stuff. But we want to try and get to know this dude. So without any delay, let me bring him on. Hi, Abdul.
Hello, how's it going? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, Abdul. How are you? You all right? I heard I'm
Surviving.
away from a food bank. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. The guys have got it all under control. Well, I'm looking at them at the CCTV. They seem to be running around like headless chickens, but they're all right, I think.
So what do you want to be known as? I mean, you've been known as Basit, Abdul. What's the kind of what do people call you? Or what do I call you?
So my full name is Abdul Basit Jabbar. Not many people knew that until the election campaign launched, fully enough. But my nickname is Baz, and that's the name that a lot of people know me by.
Okay, cool. So could call you Baz then.
Yeah, you can call me Baz. Yeah.
So Abdul, no problem. So Abdul, just we'll go straight into it, mate. Usually, the typical agenda I usually run on these shows is I run a little bit of an icebreaker, so we can get to know you and get to know your persona a little bit. And it's usually about your preferences. And I do this just to kind of break the ice and get to know what you're interested in, so people can kind of relate to you as a person. But I'm not going to do that today because we've got quite a bit I want to talk about, and we only got about half an hour. And hopefully across 3 platforms, there's going to be quite a few people listening. We might need to jump on to check the comments every 10, 15 minutes, see what comments there are. But Abdul, talk to me about, I mean, where are you from? I mean, where were you born?
So originally from Derby, born and bred here in Normanton. So yeah, this is where I've lived all my life, and here we are, still in Derby.
Yeah, so talk to me about Normanton then. I mean, so you was born and bred in Normanton. What's it like in Normanton? I'm a born and bred in Normanton as well, by the way.
Yeah,
but I want to hear your perspective of Normanton.
See, I've got very good memories of Normanton when I was young. We used to play football out on the streets. There wasn't that many cars. There wasn't that many it was a very nice area. It still is. Don't get me wrong, but it could be so much more. But back then it was a really nice area. It was quite safe. We used to play football out on the streets. Used to speak to the neighbours, people up the road, down the road, whatever, uncle, auntie. There'll always be that level of respect, which you don't see in very many young people anymore. I think we've kind of somewhere along the line lost that community spirit that we once had.
Okay. Yeah. COVID probably helped the situation out there.
Well, I suppose COVID is drawn us apart even more. And this is why building communities stronger and better. Once again, there's a demand for that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can start doing that once again. Now that the restrictions are starting to ease, once again, let's see what comes out of it, and hopefully we can start rebuilding the community once again and start, getting people the support that they need, and understanding what's going on in different people's minds and things like that. So it should be quite interesting to see what the other side of COVID looks like.
Yeah,
because we've been through such a pandemic ever before. So
yeah, no, exactly. It's once in a lifetime, as they call it. But I mean, the reality is, it's a bit of a reality. It is a reality check for everybody.
It is definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about you being born and bred in Derby, in Normanton. I mean, how did you get into this kind of community support kind of ethos about helping and giving back? I mean, what's the first sort of thing that you did? How did you get into that kind of world? Because it's been a young lad growing up in Normanton, seeing what's going on and going to schools, college. I don't know, so we won't go into that. But in reality, how did you get into kind of wanting to help support the community?
So people that know me will know that I'm somebody who can't sit still. And I've always been that way. So when I was from a young age, I got involved with radio class, got involved with some of the media stuff. I was trained up on a lot of the equipment here. I used to love doing that sort of thing. I used to love media, so website design, graphics design. I used to always be on point with that sort of stuff.
Wow.
Also audio recordings, video recordings, things like that. I used to be really good with that sort of stuff. And I continue that passion.
you touched about Radio Glass. That's a local radio station in Derby, right?
That's a local radio station for Derby. Yeah. And I'm a manager of the radio station, so I've kind of a product of the radio station has now become the manager of the radio station as well. So I took it over from Brooklyn a few years ago. So yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah. But it's been a good experience. Yeah. I set up my own organization when I was 19. That was called Be Inspiring. Okay. Now, Be Inspiring was set up whilst I was in London. Mm-hmm. And at the time, we had a university project that we were working on, which involved getting young people who are in schools, but kind of improving their IT skills. Because my background is actually in IT, my qualifications are in IT. Right. So I've got Cisco networking qualifications, I've got qualifications on Microsoft, so Microsoft Office packages, and also, operating systems and things like that. So my background is actually in IT and cybersecurity, but I've never worked in that. So although my studies have been in that, but I've always been working in the community, whether that's doing youth work here in the community, here at Radio Class. I worked at YMCA for a good few years, also worked with other homeless projects as well. So I've always been, because I think this is where my passion was. My passion has always been helping somebody and assisting the community. And I think that's what I've always done.
So who's your role model? I mean, who do you aspire to be like? I mean, surely there's somebody that you've seen or you've visualized or you've, in whether it's media or home or wherever. I mean, who's inspired you?
I think I've been inspired by lots of different people, but in lots of different ways. Okay. And I suppose the thing is, because my own journey has been a bit like this, being inspired by one person it's not, because everybody goes on their own journey. So I think with my journey, I think the inspiration for change comes from people like Nelson Mandela. He passed away a few years ago, but he was one of those who really created change in his community, and from his community then created change in his whole area, and then from his area then created change in the whole country. And this is the kind of sustainable change. So when I talk about sustainable changes and things like that in the community, these are the kind of changes I'm talking about, because he did really well in his community, and he stood up for what's right, and that sort of thing. And these are the kind of inspirational people there are. But also, I'm inspired by people like T. Harv Eker. So he's a motivational speaker. He does really good. In the property side of things, I'm inspired by people like Rob Moore, for example. He's really good in the property game. And he's got, he's literally, the way he teaches and the way he shows people how to do these kind of things is really good. And that sort of stuff is what really kind of inspired me. But community-wise, I think it's just, there's various members of the community that have inspired me, kept me motivated and kept me going. And there's brothers like yourself as well, mashallah, that, are quite inspiring, mashallah.
No, thank you very much. I think the most important thing is, right, you get inspired at people. I mean, the people that you've named are very successful people that are, have made sustainable change, like you said. And there's, in some respects, my personal is sometimes I get inspired by people that are the opposite, because I want to do better, or I see something and I want to challenge it and drive something in a different direction. And I assume that plays a part in everybody's kind of nature, and it depends. Your persona and the type of person you are will go down that direction and challenge it when it comes down to it. And again, I think politics, and that's where politics comes in, right? Because you have an opinion, you have a political side and all that sort of stuff. But again, it's very difficult not to go into that subject, and we will talk about it a little bit later. Yeah. So let's go back to. I mean, you spoke about the Aspiring that you set up in London. Okay, where is it today, and what's happening with that today?
So, Be Inspiring is running in 8 different towns and cities. And the whole purpose behind it, or the whole concept behind it, is positive thinking, and a combination of positive thinking and kind of motivation merged in with youth work. So not your conventional youth work that your local council will be doing or anything like that. This is all to do with psychology and giving young people responsibility and equipping them with the right skills. For example, entrepreneur skills. It could be finance skills and things like that. And these are the kind of things that we've touched on. So the kind of skills that schools typically don't bother too much with. So that's what we try to focus on in Be Inspiring. But we're in 8 different cities at the moment, 8 different towns and cities across the UK.
How do people get involved and listen and find out? Where do they go? Is there a website, and someone go on a website and have a look?
There's a Be Inspiring Facebook page. At the moment, there's nothing running under the organisation. So literally all the Be Inspiring organisation is doing right now is the community support helpline, which is same thing as what we've got running here in Derby, and also the food bank. So that's the only two projects that Be Inspiring is running at the moment. We used to have about 16 football teams and quite a few other little projects as well on the go, the workshops and everything else. But everything, as soon as COVID hit, everything was on hold, and we put all our resources into COVID response.
Makes complete sense. Okay, so you set up a youth type centre in Derby for a short period, and I know I came visited you at one occasion. I know my brother Shaz was involved in some respect, and I came to see you once, and I was really impressed with the stuff that you're trying to do. What happened there?
So we set up something called the Youth Hub. Now, the Youth Hub, again, that's in 7 different cities as well. So the Youth Hub has grown into quite a big organization. It was just in Derby. We initiated it here in Derby. Unfortunately, the problem we had in Derby was we didn't have enough support to sustain it over a long period of time. So we kept the project running for about 3 years. After 3 years, it became really difficult. Finances was, quite tough as well. And we couldn't raise the funds to keep the youth centre running. The rents went up. The cost of energy went up. The cost of equipment went up. So it was quite a tough one. But generally, the Youth Hub, again, we're in a few different cities. We're getting support from, businesses, from members of the community, from local councils, and we've got facilities such as pool tables in there, table tennis, there's PlayStations, and those kind of bits of equipment in there. So it's quite. And the main focus with that was keeping young people off the streets, giving them something to do in a safe and friendly environment under the supervision of qualified youth workers, and that was the main concept. It's something very simple and very small, but it was such a success here in Derby. We used to have close enough to between 100 and 200 people attended, the centre each day.
Let's be clear about the word community as well, right? Community is not just about race, religion, background, ethnicity. It's about everybody, right? Everybody that lives in that whole environment.
Exactly.
Together. Well, I think it's really key to kind of deliver that message and send that message out to people that are listening.
Yeah.
It's not about whether you're black, white, Asian, wherever. It's a community of people.
Exactly. And that was one of the things that we really tried to focus on and nail hard, that look, the centre that we've got is inclusive for everybody. And it was, because we had people from all different, parts of the community coming in, and joining forces, playing a game of pool, playing on the PlayStation, table tennis, whether it was watching a movie or whatever. We had people from all backgrounds, faiths, religions, ethnicities, nationalities, whatever you want to call it. People from all different backgrounds on there.
So where did this whole concept and this whole idea about youth and concept and the project? You were 19, you said you were setting up Be Inspiring. I mean, do you just sleep, think of something and wake up the next morning and say, I'm going to do it? I mean, where does this all come from?
Your brother will tell you that is the case literally with me. I go to sleep inspired one night and the next minute it's, action time. And, literally everybody that works on my team will tell you that, Derby Crisis Response, the COVID response organization that we set up, was set up in 4 hours. We sat around a table one day. We had no intention of setting up an organization. We just thought, okay, there's a few people that need help and support in the community. Within 4 hours, we had a fully blown project. It's not one of those inflatable projects that you can get.
So let's talk about the logistics of it then. I mean, you just spoke about, you run a food bank, and how long has the food bank been running?
Food bank's been running for about a year now.
Okay. And what's the intake, and what sort of people do you get in? Do you talk to many of the people? Do you get time to engage with them?
So the food bank, earlier on in the process, we used to engage with people quite heavily and that sort of thing. However, now, because it's been so busy, it's difficult to engage with each and every person. But typically they come from, broken families a lot of the time. There's people who are struggling with benefits, maybe. There's people who have applied for benefits and they haven't come through. There's people who have got higher rents and struggling to make ends meet. People from Europe, they've moved from Italy or Spain or those kind of countries and they can't get benefits here and they're struggling to find a job. So there's a wide range of people that we cater for, a very wide range of people.
Surely, where does all the food and everything come from? Who pays for it, and how do you logistically make it happen?
You know what? A lot of people ask me that question, and I honestly couldn't answer that properly, because the reason why I say that is because week in, week out, we get so much food. Some of it comes from the community, some of it comes from suppliers, and some of it, I'm being honest, hand on heart, I don't know where it comes from, but it's just downstairs in the food bank. So it just turns up. Literally, there's so much support from the community. Honestly, so much support from the community, and it's crazy. We get people leaving food outside on our front door, and even things like clothes and stuff like that. but the community that we live in is very, very giving. And it's honestly, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I saw an image of a queue of people waiting at a food bank. And
Yeah.
I'd love to show it, but I don't have the image. But I saw it when I was doing some research on you as a
I was going to say I might turn around later on. I'll try to turn around my. I don't think you'll be able to see it.
You know what? No, don't do that because it might have somebody on there that doesn't want to be on it. So it's fine.
It's from the back. It's from the back. So.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, you can't see any faces, but yeah, it's quite. I mean, even now, I can see that it's going over, around the corner to Cromwell Road as well. So those of you guys who know where Radio Class Building is, so imagine going around the corner to Cromwell Road and up that side as well. So that's how long the queue is looking like at the moment.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can imagine, I mean, it demonstrates how tough it is and tough times. And you know what? Anybody can fall in it. It's not about putting yourself down about it. The reality is we're in a COVID, we're in a pandemic. Times are hard. Anybody can find themselves in it. But then you've got people like Abdul that are mobilizing, and I'll come on to that word mobilization, but kind of trying to help and address the community, different parts. With food, the kind of the things that you'd expect are necessities. These are not things that these are things that help you live. And it's so
people ask me usually what kind of things do you give, and I say to them bread and veg, because in essence that's all we really have. We have bread and we have veg, and there's other things that we give as well, bits and bobs, but bread and veg are the main things because these are your basic necessities. Once you got those two, you can do something with them. And ultimately, that's what it is. Veg you can make soup with, bread you can warm it up and have it with the soup. You can make a meal out of it. It's as simple as that. There's no luxuries or anything like that we give out. It's just a basic necessities. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if I ever told you. I went to a live show in Sky, and I was sitting in front of Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn in the same room. Okay. And we posed similar sort of questions to about the necessities and stuff, and all I got was politics. And that's one of the reasons when my mindset was actually, you know what, I can't live in that sort of world, right? Because they just didn't know what to say and how they were presenting, what they were doing. And I'll show you. I actually was on Sky front row. It went out there, and it was those basic things that people need. They couldn't get right. And it's not about, for me, it's not about the bells and whistles. Everybody wants bells and whistles. They don't necessarily need bells and whistles. And exactly. That's a concept that people just don't. I work in a program world and we do the same thing. You build a foundation, you get the foundation right, and the bells and whistles will come. You can't get the bell, you can't get the foundation right, the wrong things will come.
Exactly.
So it's so important to get that foundation right. So mobilization then. So the word mobilization, the reason I use it is because I can imagine some of this being a proper logistic nightmare, a proper nightmare to try and pull together, right? So let's talk about what you just touched on around your Derby Crisis Response Unit team. Is that, did I call it right? Sorry.
Yeah. Derby Crisis Response. Yeah.
So how did that all come about, and how much did it grow in how long? Because I know it was everywhere. It was in the paper as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've caught the headline so many times. I've lost count. I remember, I think it was it June, July time? By June, July time, I think we were in the paper 15 times. Last year, I'm talking about. So, and then after that, so many times after that as well. So it's definitely something that's been recognised out there in the community, and also beyond as well. We got recognition from MPs. We got recognition from a lot of people out there that saw the work. I think the main thing that we did different was we mobilized so many volunteers. And this is where your word mobilization comes in, because we just put out a call for volunteers. As soon as all this COVID stuff kicked in, we put out a call for volunteers, and we registered about 500 volunteers within a matter of days.
Oh, yeah, crazy. That's
and many of those 500 are still engaged now in the actual response work that we're still doing.
What's the age range of these 4 people?
The youngest one that we've got is 12. Wow. And the oldest is, I think, hitting 60 now. So
it's quite broad. And what about that gender mix? So you're getting bits of females, males,
yes.
different backgrounds?
Right now, it's about 50-50.
That's amazing.
We tend to find that females are generally more active when it comes to community work. Sorry to the brothers, but females are generally more active when it comes to community work. And even the food back downstairs today that's running, it's all run by females today.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. So you've been recognised by media and all over, So where's that leading to now? Has that calmed down now? Has that closed? You just do the food bank stuff at the moment?
So under Derby Crisis Response, we've got two main projects. One is a food bank, which is running 2 days a week. So we'll stop doing deliveries because now people can get out, can go out shopping, can do whatever they need to do. So the restrictions are not as tight as when they once were. So in order to sustain the project, we've decided to change the way we work. So rather than us going out to the community, we've now said to the community that, look, we're going to have 2 collection days. You come out to us. And all our food banks across the UK are working in the same way, where people actually come out to us, pick up wherever they want. So like a community shop style place, pick up whatever they want, and then they can go home and cook and do whatever they need to do with that. But yeah, so I think the future is looking in that direction. So more of the collections, community shop style thing. And yeah, I suppose that's the main thing there, really. The call center is going to continue as an ongoing project as well. The COVID helpline, so that's going to continue as an ongoing project as well. But I think that we'll be probably dealing with a lot of other issues on there as opposed to just COVID related.
Yeah. And who's that helpline for? Is that the local Derby community?
So that was for the Derby community, yeah. So when we launched the project initially, we obviously launched the food bank straight away within a matter of hours. But what we realized quickly was, okay, we've got the food bank, we've got the food, but we've got nobody coming in to get the food or nobody coming to arrange the food. And then it was, okay, look, what do we put in place for people to actually call us and say, look, we need some food, can you drop it off to us? And that's where the community helpline came into it. And it was, just so you know, it was an idea of a 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So you can see that, it's turned into such a big project. We've got 22 call handlers at the moment.
Wow.
So
the amount of experience that those guys will get in terms of, I know it's voluntary work, but I mean, people don't realize how much, I mean, the thinking, the charity work, the volunteering they do is experience of building for a CV, for big jobs and big roles out there. As soon as they get into that environment, understand how you practically pull a project together, that's life skills, that's going to help people move. And obviously in our culture, we're about giving back, right? And it's all about, giving back, charity, supporting the community, doesn't matter who they are. It's instilling those culture and those behaviors in all the people that are involved, which is, again,
we had one of our youngsters from Derby that applied for an apprenticeship with BA, so British Airways, at Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
And obviously his family's moved to London and everything, but because he had Derby Crisis Response on his CV, he was telling me that the person that interviewed him, when he was talking about Derby Crisis Response, that person instantly knew what he was talking about, because Derby Crisis Response has been on the BBC, it's been on ITV, and he had heard about it from London.
It's amazing. Yeah.
How a group of people from the Muslim community stood up and did the best that they could without getting support from the council and other agencies. And achieve such a phenomenal result,
Yeah, well, listen, hopefully they'll get to know Chai with Shaz as well in London. Hopefully this will reach out to them and maybe different countries.
Yes.
It's purely to help give a platform to people like you that can share your story and share what you're doing.
Definitely.
And that's all I'm about at the moment. This is to help people, and that's why I do this. So what's the ambition? What's your ambitions? So if I was going to say, what are you going to be doing in 5 years' time?
So my main thing has always been community work. Whatever work I can do in the community, I'll always be up for it. I think from my perspective, I definitely want to do more in terms of youth and media, and definitely merge the two together as well. So that's definitely something on my list. I've got a few projects in the pipeline, but at the moment we're just working on bits and bobs and just trying to get things set. Once we come out of the COVID response side of things, then we'll start, picking up those projects and just doing what we really need to do. But the COVID response has given me a lot of time to think in terms of where we want to be in the next 5 years, and that's the main thing, I think, youth and media.
Yeah, youth and media. And what about we'll touch on the politics now. So you're obviously running for election for is it local MP? What you're running for?
Local elections, council elections.
So to become a councillor, a local councillor.
Yeah.
Normanton and Sunny Hill, is that right?
Yeah, Normanton and Sunny Hill, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I assume your ambition is to go into that, become a counsellor and support through the council.
Yeah. So one thing I realized was that when you're doing community work, there's a lot of barriers, and sometimes you have to be in the democratic system to overcome those barriers as well. Unfortunately, I come across a lot of barriers. I mean, Shabazz will tell you some of the things. For example, it was when we had football teams and the goals from Arboretum Park and Normanton Park were taken away. We didn't have enough strong representation from our councillors to say, no, hang on a minute, this isn't right. The youth in our community still need this facility, and unfortunately, because we didn't have that, these are the kind of things that we really need to step up. And our council should have stepped up the game on this, but they didn't. And these are the kind of things that I really want to fight, especially rights for the young people. Because the thing is, whenever there's changes in the community, in the parks and things like that, the young people are the most affected, but they're also the least consulted.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's ludicrous, in fact, that look, you're making a change that's going to impact that young person, but you're not asking him, okay, look, what can we do? What are your alternatives? This, that, the other. And these are the kind of things that we really need to look at.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's what I want to bring to the table. And I think with my experience with youth work, with my experience with speaking to a lot of people in the community, working in a community setting, working in this area for the last decade, I think I've got that experience to now, take this a step up. And that's why I want to come into politics, because I think that I can put across a stronger voice than our, existing councillors, which they might be doing a good enough job. But the thing is, when things like this crop up, they don't stand up enough.
Yeah, you got to think about it, right? And like I said, I'm going to stop the politics now on the council, because I know that you've got a massive campaign running. There's loads going on, and I'm wishing you the best. I hope you do really well in it, right? So, I unfortunately don't live in Normanton or Sunny Hill, so I don't know where I stand on that. But if I did, I'd definitely vote for you. I am a Labour, all-time Labour supporter from day one. But things are changing, and with life, things change, right? There's a saying where somebody said this, and I can't remember. If you keep doing what you always did, you're always going to get what you always got.
Exactly.
Right? And there's a saying.
And the interesting point that you mentioned also with yourself being a traditional Labour supporter, I come from a background where we've been traditional Labour supporters as well. But the problem is, or what we found is the problem that, the councillors that we elect, because they have that thought that, okay, we're going to get elected anyway because we're Labour. So the problem there is, if the community is going to vote somebody because they're Labour anyway, not because they're an active councillor, I think it automatically brings that whole situation to a halt. And that's what the current situation is, especially here in Normanton, Arboretum, and these kind of areas.
Yeah. But that's why it's important for people like you to come up and step up in those challenges, challenge these people, right? And I lived in Stoke for 15 years. We had the same scenario there, right? So it's not just a Derby challenge, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The reality is again, it's about what you're comfortable with, and not, and that's where you think, okay, I've never been put in danger. But actually, we also never thought about the value and the increase or the incremental value that you'll get if there was change. I mean, there was, another story was about, I don't know if you knew, Tiger Woods, the golfer. There's this thing called a Sigmoid Curve, where you try something different and you've got to keep trying. He was the world champion, right? Yeah. He was a champion. And he decided that he's going to change how he swings and how he's going to use. He practiced and practiced and practiced his technique, and no one thought he'd ever become a world champion again. He trained, and that's the thing, right? Sometimes you've got to keep trying something different. If you don't, you're never going to get further up. And the idea of him changing was to push that boundary. And you get Sigmoid, because sometimes you see a drop before it comes up, and that's what the curve's about. It goes down before it goes up.
Exactly.
That's life, right? You make changes, you adopt, you understand your worst. That's how it works. But anyway, I'm going to wish you the best of luck on all of that sort of stuff.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
For joining me on this Jab with Shaz. Let me just double check, see if there's any questions come up. If not, I'll let you go. So give me 2 seconds, see if anybody's swore at us or. You make changes. Oh, I can see myself. Well, so I don't want to. All right, I don't know. Anyway, I've shut it down. But. Yeah. Abdul, thank you very much for your time, and I hope everybody that's watched and listened, just watch out for this guy. You know, he's doing a brilliant job in the community. It's lovely to hear from him. He's always been a humble, down to earth person. And you know what? I've enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
I'm going to wish you well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Remember, on Sunday we've got Simeon from Canada. We've got quite a few people lined up after that. I've got some famous people that I'm not going to name yet, but should be on the show after Eid. So the next 4 or 5 weeks. So we'll watch out for that. And I've also got a hijabi cricket coach from ECB, which is a brilliant person, Sabah, who's going to be coming on in the next couple of weeks as well. So it'll be great to interview her. But for now, have a good evening, and I'll see you on Sunday.